Welcome to Strength in the Numbers. My name is Andrew Codd, accountant, author, and commercial finance entrepreneur, and it's my job each week to bring you leaders in finance and business and deconstruct with them their real stories, insights, and hard-won lessons into practical advice on the key strengths and qualities you need to remain relevant in accounting and finance today, as well as the steps you can begin to take to elevate the impact you make to have a fun, successful, and rewarding career in accounting and finance. Now let's go over to the show. Hi everyone and welcome to the Strength in the Numbers show, and this week's guest mentor is Dr Noel Tagoe, who's had a career spanning practice, industry and more recently academia, but don't mistake Noel for getting caught in academics. He's actually quite engaged in our profession, where Noel is Executive Vice President Academics at AICPA, and that's why we've had to spread this show over 2 episodes. The first part, which we'll cover today, is really about values relevant to practical advice, going to bear fruit for us and our careers, but also the impact and meaningful problems we can go be solving for our organisations. Some of the key points we cover on the episode is actually deconstructing 3 steps to become more valuable and relevant to our organisations. Another area we cover is what to do if we encounter failure and why it's actually a very good risk management tool that we have in our pockets. Also the importance of learning communities, and also Noel shares 3 ways to think about approaching our profession, and also a fantastic personal story about the transformative power of finance. Look, loads of great quotes in there, and just like with everything else mentioned, I put those in the show notes, which you can find at sitnshow.com/podcast/086. And don't forget, if you've found any value in this show, please let your friends and colleagues know about it at iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher and YouTube. So again, really appreciate your support in building this show. So now without further ado, over to Noel and the show. Noel, welcome to the show.
And thank you very much.
So Noel, look, some of our audience probably seen you on TV or the video giving advice to like CNBC news channels or the SEMA website or AICPA. So maybe we could probably do with more around your background and your story. So would you mind sharing a bit there for our audience?
Well, I'm currently Executive Vice President for Management Accounting Research and Curriculum. And that's a long name for just ensuring that we have at SEMA and AICPA the qualification that is relevant, that is fit for the times, and that it is based on good research, and then also to carry out research that will increase our profile and tell us what is happening. So that's what I do now. But it's been quite a journey coming from there. I came into accounting probably more as a conscript, really,
than
as a convert, because my dad was an accountant and he insisted that I become an accountant. And so I went through university studying accounting, trained as a chartered accountant, and all of this just to get my dad off my back. But somewhere in the process, I fell in love with accounting. And so worked with British Petroleum for a while in accounting and strategy positions. Went to do some postgraduate study at the University of Dundee. Taught at the University of Manchester Business School for a while. Went through to work with KPMG in Africa, leading major projects in corporate finance. And then came back to Ireland, University College Dublin, Michael Smith's Graduate School of Business to teach a bit. Moved to Oxford University to do research and to teach, and then moved to SEMA. And in SEMA, had been looking at accreditation, qualification development, research and development, and all of those things. So that's part of summary of where I've come from.
Yeah, that's a heck of a journey between, I suppose, academia, between business practice, commerce. I suppose, are there any particular memories on that journey that stand out for you, Noel?
Well, it is. For me in terms of the journey. I like that because when I'm in practice, I call myself a reflective practitioner, a thinking practitioner. When I'm in academia, I like to see myself as a grounded and engaged academic. Because you see, when you're an academic, people think you live in an ivory tower. You're not in touch. And sometimes that's true, but what I like to do is to make sure that I really, really, really stay grounded in the real world. And then when you're in practice, you hardly have time to think and to reflect.
True.
And I tend to bring that discipline of deep reflection that I have from academia into practice. So that's why when I'm in practice, I call myself a reflective practitioner. But there have been several things in that journey that I've taken. When I qualified as a chartered accountant, sometime in the late 1980s, was one of the moments that stood out of my life. I kind of believe that I have arrived. I knew what I was about, and so on. But one of the major turning points in my life was moving away from accounting into strategy. Now, I had been working in strategy in accounting for a long time. Now, I believed in the accounting story, but that was in the 1980s, and then I was shifted to strategy, and all of a sudden I found out that the accounting I did was no use to me as a strategist.
Yeah.
Because I was speaking more to external stakeholders than to internal stakeholders. So then my life became a quest of how do I bring the two together. In fact, that's how come I went to study for a master's degree first, and I wrote a thesis on how to combine the two together. After the master's degree, I felt I haven't cracked it enough, and then so I did a doctoral program on and so the thesis, the title of my thesis was the role of accounting in strategic decision processes. And my quest has been to bring accounting, if you like, from the back room through the middle room to the front room, where accounting is engaging more broadly with the rest of business and then the rest of the business's environment and ecosystem. And in fact, that is how come I like CMA, because it does that.
Actually, it's quite funny. Like, you probably didn't realize how important that subject area, that subject matter, bringing that together is, like, how relevant and how important that is today. So
exactly. Well, and at that time, we were developing new fields called strategic management accounting and value chain accounting and all those things. And that has gone from that. So a lot of the work I do now is trying to answer the question, how do we make accounting valuable to the organization? You see, because if you look at how the accounting function is evaluated, it's evaluated more on efficiency and cost. So if you look at the benchmarks that Hackett and everything does, it's about that. But think about it this way. Anytime you mention cost, your strategic and instinctive behavior towards cost is to reduce cost.
Yeah.
So if accountants are regarded as cost, the strategic behavior towards us is to reduce what we do. On the other hand, if you shift the thinking from cost to value, everybody's strategic behavior, instinctive behavior towards value is to maximize value. So if we shift accountants from doing stuff which is merely cost, in a cost perspective, to adding value, then there's no end to the use that will be put to, and people want to use us more.
Yeah, because I mean, that's been a big thing for me in my career, Noel, like working in practice, also working in commerce. It's sort of seeing that sort of cost mentality that we've grown out from, because, you know, like cost cutting for me, or that focus on cost is like, if you want to lose weight, for instance, you can go chop an arm off or a leg off, but how useful is that really for your long-term health, right?
I'll pick that one up.
But that said, right, if we then sort of turned about value and said, what could we do with our arm, or what could we do with our leg? Some people could bend it like Beckham, or some people could really do some positive things with their arms, or their mouths, or their voices, or their eyes. There's so much more we can do with our body parts, you know, and get a bit leaner at the same time, fitter and healthier for the future. So, you know, like, I do sort of think that change is happening, but some of us are probably not on that journey yet. Some of us are just starting. Look, are there maybe a few baby steps we could take to sort of how to take accounting forward to be more relevant and valuable? Are there any sort of other things we can start doing today that would help?
Well, for me, think about it this way. Value is value to somebody. It's not what is value to you. So the first thing you've got to identify is, who am I relating to, and who am I giving something? So that's the first. Identify who you're creating the value. The second thing then is, for me, directly find what is of value to the person, and more directly ask the people, what is of value to you? And once you've done that, begin to then engage with them in how to provide that value to those people. And sometimes you have the skills to do that. Sometimes you don't. So, but I believe that 95% of the things that is required of us, we can do it either because we have the skills currently, or we can acquire the skills in the course of time. And I'll say a few things about it in a moment. Or we can plug into a network of people who already have the skills. And so they will help us to do that. Or in the future, they will help us to do that. So it is about my skills, my current skills, my future skills, the skills of others, their current skills and their future skills. And it will help me to be able to do that. And it's also interactions, the dynamic of interacting daily in there. The final thing I'll say is that we have to come with an open mind. And let me just say very quickly that when I talk about an open mind, I don't mean an empty mind.
Yeah, well
an
said,
empty mind
yeah.
is dangerous. So an open mind, what an open mind does is that it takes some things out of it and it receives some new things in terms of that. And that speaks to what in educational language we call lifelong learning. So you learn some things and you unlearn some of those when they are less relevant, and then you relearn new things. And that's an open mind.
Yeah, because just put a podcast together with some sort of mindsets that are helpful to people's careers, like from previous guests.
Exactly.
And I think open mind comes up a lot. That growth mindset, the open mind.
Exactly.
And even it was quite funny. Even our last podcast guest said, like, if they thought they'd made it once they became an accountant, got their letters, but that's only started the journey. It's like that sort of constant unlearning, relearning. I mean, how many of us get the certificate? And that's it.
I feel a challenge to somebody. I mean, so us accountants are very numerical minded, and so quantitatively minded. So let's do a bit of an experiment in terms of this. If you decide as an accountant to improve yourself just 1% a day consistently, at the end of the year, you would have improved yourself 3,740% at the end of the year.
Compound.
In other words, 37 times over.
That's what I mean.
And it is consistent discipline, just baby steps.
Baby steps.
I would improve myself 1% a day, not 10% a day, not 100% a day, just 1%. And that is doable. And that has been my discipline in terms of that. So is it in reading? So I read 100 words a day. I'm going to read 101 words a day tomorrow. I'm going to improve it by another 1% of that, and so on. You find out that if you read, for example, if you read 10 words a day, and you improve by 1% every day, at the end of the year, you'll be reading 374 words a day. That is the kind of thing, and those are easily doable steps. Not big things to do, but consistent discipline. And that's the spirit of Kaizen, if you like.
Yeah. Fortunately for me, fortunately, I love what you said about Kaizen. I actually started before I did my accounting qualifications. I actually did a stint in field sales, and that's where they introduced Kaizen. But it's a really great way of thinking about improvement, because the challenge laid down by our last podcast guest, it was around CPD, was to challenge yourself to do something a bit extra, do a little bit more.
Exactly.
And the Kaizen is sort of an examination, like that reflection you were saying, the reflective practitioners, that where we need to find in ourselves, where we're like saying, okay, what do we do well and what could we do better?
Exactly. Well, it's exactly. And one of the things that more recently I found out is what I'm calling, and others have probably called before me, an analysis of failure. And that is the best thing. So a part of my background is in philosophy. So I studied accounting, more leaned towards economics, and latterly at Oxford University did a fair bit of work on the interface between philosophy, theology, and the world of economics and accounting. And so it makes me kind of think about things a bit more deeply in some of these areas. And one of the things that I've realized in terms of life, for us as people who are in practice, is a whole notion, if you like, of reflecting on things deeply and committing yourself to some form of improvement over there, and doing that on a consistent basis and having regard to the other. The other thing also is just go out there and not be fearful. And coming back to the area of an analysis of failure and where my philosophy on that is, for most people, they believe that failure and success are not related together. They see it as a junction. So success goes to the right, failure goes to the left. That is not the case. You know, so if you remember Churchill says that success is not final, failure is not fatal. What is important is the ability to change and that is what I want people to do. And an analysis of failure, which enables you to fail fast. If you have to fail, learn from it and improve upon it is the best risk management tool that I have. So I don't mind how many times I'll fail, but I know that the one time I hit the jackpot, it will be good, you know. And by the way, I also don't call it failure most of the time. I call it's just a milestone in my journey towards success.
Yeah.
And even success is a milestone anyway. So I'd advise people to be really able to do that, but also to get into community and talk with other kinds of people, because that's where learning is. Because learning can never be private. It can be personal, but not private. And when you learn in community, it's very good. So I have kind of three communities that I intersect. In my mind, I belong to three communities that intersect. One of them I call the community of moaners. We moan about everything. So they are finance. They are good because they raise the problems. They are saying to you, there's a problem here, there's a problem there, there's a problem here. Without the community of moaners, we can't move forward in most cases. And I sit here as an honorary president of that community. And then once you moan, there's another community, sometimes it intersects with a community of moaners, but sometimes it doesn't. But they take the problems and they are the community of solution providers. You bring a problem, they'll solve the problem for you. They have that knack to be able to do that. And we've got to find a way of tapping into that community, either as members or benefiting from that. And then the third group is what I call the communities of practice, where the solutions are now turned into practical things that people can do. You know, so, and as these three communities intersect, people raise problems, people solve the problems are then moved into practice, we do that. And if you are not plugged into any of those communities, you find out that it is very difficult for you to improve what you're doing and bring any meaningful innovation and development to what you have.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I just, before we move off your journey, there's one point that I did stick with me, and it's very similar to my own scenarios, that I became an accountant. I love numbers and so on, but really it was to get my mum off my back about becoming a professional or something. So just thinking, like, if you were advising, you know, kids or younger people nowadays, like, what would you be saying to them about a profession in accounting and finance, or following a qualification in our profession? Like, what would you be saying to them? Is it a good thing, or what should they thinking about it?
Well, I think it's a good thing. So professions generally, I say, do what you would die for or kill for. So a lot of passion, you should have passion in that. You know, it's not for nothing that we say head, heart, and hand. The head is the rational thing. The heart is the passion. The hand is the doing bit of that. And all of those things must align. So, I mean, I love numbers. So shifting into accounting wasn't too much. All I wanted to study was mathematics at the time. I found mathematics sexy at the time, you know. So the switch to accounting wasn't too bad. But the first thing I'll say to them, find something that you're passionate about. You see, because when you have passion, you do whatever. I mean, think about a man passionate about a woman, or a woman passionate about a man. They'll do whatever to get together. So passion is a key thing. And then something that you will be prepared to put in the hard slog. Because things can look very bright and sexy from outside. You start getting into it, there are moments and periods where they're there. But I found accounting rewarding. So let me give you an example. In one organization, a major multinational organization, once invited me to interview for a particular position. I didn't want to go into that organization anyway. And you know how if you don't need a job and you go for an interview, you speak your mind.
Yeah.
You're not under any pressure. So I come in, and then the chairman of the panel says to me, "Noel, what's the social utility of what you do? What's the social benefit?" And I kind of said to him, "Really, do you know what position I hold?" And he said, "Yeah, I know." And I said, "And you're asking me that question?" I said to him, "I'm in education and I'm in finance." And I asked him, "Would you be sitting here if not for education?" And he says, "Well, I will not be sitting here." And I asked all the panel members. They said, "Yeah, education has helped us a lot." And I said, "You are my social benefit." Then I asked them, "How many of you have investment, mortgages, etc.? How do you go about that? How many of you are in organization? You get paid and stuff like that. Without accountants, do you think that would be possible?" And they said no. And I said, "So that's my social utility." And I said, when I combine those two, it is lethal, because it's not, when there's combination, you can either have an additive combination, so that's 2 + 3 is equal to 5, or a multiplicative combination, that's 2 × 3 is equal to 6. I said to them, mine is not additive, mine is not multiplicative, mine is exponential. It's 2 raised to the power 3, which is 8. That is so I say to kids that finance and accounting can do that. It's transformative of individuals, it's transformative of communities and corporations, it's transformative of nations. It changes the destiny of things. So if you want to do something that is worthwhile, that is actually changing, that has purpose, there are many things you can do. One of those is shout, and a strong contender is finance. Yeah, and I'll say that to anybody anytime.
Oh, completely. I mean, look, it's no accident that our economies and our corporations are run by the numbers. They're converted into financial metrics. I mean, that's it. So Noel, you're very passionate about accounting and finance, and I'd love to touch on maybe what's exciting you most about your current work.
So at the moment, a lot of things excite me. We are on the cusp of doing things differently because of technology. Things are changing around us. Technology is changing the way things are, and so on. And for many people, that represents a threat. The exciting thing about my job is to be able to demonstrate to people that it shouldn't be a threat, and that there's a huge amount of opportunity and excitement about that. So let me give you a few examples about the things that we are doing. Mostly conducting research in that area, bringing insight to people and turning it into a new qualification for SIMA and SIMA students. Now, so a couple of details in there, but within the same ballpark. There's an organization that I was researching, a major global organization. And I was asking them how technology was changing the things that accountants did. And they gave me a very simple example. First of all, they kind of said to me, look, they had a revenue forecasting system, which was, in my view, was quite good. Actually, it was 97% accurate. But they said it wasn't good enough because the 3% that was out represented $3 billion out, because they're a $100 billion organization. So, and for that system, they used 800 accountants 1 month in a year to do that. Their revenue forecasting system. It's a major global organization I'm talking. So if you think about it, 800 accountants, 1 month in a year to do the forecast, and you assume that 1 month is 20 working days, that is 16,000 working days to do that. And that's not strange. I mean, some people use more than that for that quality of forecast. But when they decided to improve, they decided to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to do that. And now they've improved it, but they use artificial intelligence algorithms and 2 people for 2 days in a year. So now it's artificial intelligence plus 4 work days. Imagine, they moved it from 16,000 work days to 4 work days. Now then you kind of ask yourself, oh, we are all going to die. I mean, accountants are going to, we are out of job. No, they weren't out of jobs at all. So they then had to go back to the organization and say to the organization, what is it that we do that you value? Now, the organization told them. Now, it occurred to them that the organization didn't value so much the number crunching, because the number crunching was just the start of different things. And they did some things that for them was subsidiary to the number crunching. But that was what the organization valued so much more. And they began to do things. They retained everybody. The organization values what they are doing now, and the organization cannot have enough of them. Those are some of the things. And that excites me in terms of that. How can we work with machines to scale up what we do? So, for example, technology is allowing us to talk together, share podcasts, etc., and things like that. And sometimes technology can be a bit threatening. So let me give you my life experience 4 years ago with a technology called WhatsApp. So in my work, I travel a lot. I mean, two weeks in a month, I'm out in another country, etc. And I have 3 sons. And they tend to want me to buy stuff for them all the time. I'm an accountant, so I don't spend money that easily. So often I go there and say to them, Dad, I say to them, look, Chris, Sean, or Cyril, I didn't get what you wanted, and I didn't go and look for it. And then these guys became wise. They said, Dad, there's something called WhatsApp. And I said, yeah. They loaded WhatsApp on my system. And then I remember one particular incident. I go into Chicago, and one of my sons asked me for some stuff. And I said, really? I don't know where to get that. And he says, oh, go to Macy's, Michigan Avenue. I don't know where that is. He says, okay, Dad, then he sends me the map, Google Map stuff over there. That's technology. And then I said to him, yeah, I can see that. But I also see that it is 8 floors. Where is it? He says, no, don't worry. I've ordered a thing. It's on this floor, this particular location of the floor. That's the floor plan. Just go there with your card and pay for it. Now, then I decided to ignore him. 2 minutes later, then he comes back and says, Dad, I know you've read my stuff because there are 2 double ticks over there.
The 2 double ticks.
And I kind of said, okay, now I know. So that's my experience with technology. I had to go and buy this stuff. Now, so these days they ask me to buy something. I said, no, I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah, but
because I know
exactly. Yeah, but even in that example, though, think about it.
It is. But I find using technology really very helpful to the work that I do. It's cut my travel a lot. I can teach using technology. I can run seminars using technology. I can work with people across different time zones using technology. And one of the things that I found out is this, in particular, when you talk about automation, etc. Machines are very good at doing routine calculations and predictions. And the strange thing we find in our research that most people now have seen is that the more machines do prediction, the more human judgment is needed. And I say to people, that is an area that we've got to look at more and more and more. That's number one. Number two is that the more machines take things of us, the more it is required of us to interact with human beings more. So let me give you an example. I think it's about Amazon, where they wanted to ensure that their drivers got to deliver on time within short time window. They managed to achieve that. But then customer satisfaction went down. They thought that if we achieve this, customer satisfaction should go up. It went the other way around. A survey of customers then said to them, your drivers just come and drop the thing, no banter, nothing talking to us. And then they realized that the drivers were not just drivers. They were the first line of customer service to the people. So the driver speaks to the people, etc. Things like that. Then that's how. That calls for things like drivers now not seeing themselves only as drivers, but as people relating with people. When they are relating with people, it calls for something which we call empathy or emotional intelligence. Those are quite key things. Human beings have them, we leave them behind. Now, automation is making us come to that, because if machines can do some things for us, we need to dial up some of these things, and that is that. So things like judgment, empathy, and so on are coming to the fore, and we've got to be able to get people excited about that and use that in order to make sure that the organization comes up.
So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And there's a part 2 coming up next week, which actually goes more into the philosophy around the balance in accounting, but also Noel deconstructs 6 areas that if we do better, we will have a very rewarding and meaningful career in finance and accounting. So that one's definitely not to be missed. So hope you enjoyed today's show. If you'd like to know more about our guests today, their bio, and follow up on the resources mentioned during the show, you can find all the relevant links and more at sitnshow.com. There you'll also be able to get access to earlier shows, read the latest blogs. There's also an opportunity to subscribe to our newsletter, which will give you heads up as to when the next show is coming out, latest events, news, and anything that's going to be relevant to help you have a fun, rewarding and successful career in finance and accounting. And just before you go, we really appreciate your feedback. If there's something we can do better on the show, something that's not working, or something you'd like to see, even a guest you'd like for us to invite onto the show, someone who you think might be able to benefit you more and also the rest of our community, please let me know. You can email me. I'm at andrew@sitnshow.com, or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just drop me a message so I know how you found me and we can connect. And really, it's our community that'll make the show. If we keep engaging and driving each other on, we'll keep on building our strength in the numbers. And when all is said and done, if we can do the numbers better and finance better, we'll create more opportunities for ourselves, our friends, our families, our communities and our businesses. So until next time, have a good rest of the week, take care, and let's keep building our strength in the numbers.